Hello everyone, welcome to Raj Malhotra IAS. Guys, a very important current affairs news from your examination point of view, no matter if you are giving UPSC exam, state civil services, if you are giving SSC or whatever exam you are giving. A very important current affair we are going to cover in this video session now, and we are going to cover the topic which is related with a satellite launch, and the launch vehicle that is involved is GSLV F10, and the satellite which has been launched is nothing but Geo Imaging Satellite 1. Alright, so it is very important. So GISAT 1 stands for Geo Imaging Satellite 1. Alright, so this particular today we have gone with launching the Geo Imaging Satellite 1, and we have to cover in detail the various aspects of this launch, this satellite, what benefit is going to have from examination point of view. And trust me, we are going to cover this from the infographic which is provided by the agency which is behind the launch, and that is ISRO. Remember one thing, many times such kind of infographic go wasted away because people do not have access to such kind of infographic. But through this channel we are trying to bring in the government authentic infographic to you to provide you the information which is important from examination point of view. Launch date is not important, launch time is not important, but we need to know the core aspects of the satellite, the launch vehicle, and the why it is known as a very strategically important satellite. In fact, let me tell you, there is a very common name that we use for this satellite, and the common name with GISAT is being referred to is Eye in the Sky. Alright, so this satellite, that is GISAT 1, is popularly being called as Eye in the Sky, and it's a very important satellite from Indian consideration or Indian point of view. So let us now discuss the various aspects related to the GISAT 1 or GSLV F10 launch. So let's talk about, so this is the precise infographic given by ISRO. So let me give you a little bit description about the satellite launch which is being scheduled to take place. Now the first and the foremost thing that you should understand is that the launch vehicle that is being used, alright, the launch vehicle that is being used is GSLV F10. Alright, this is the 14th flight of GSLV. This is the 14th flight of GSLV. It is a very important information from examination point of view. This 14th flight of the geostationary launch vehicle is launching the geo imaging satellite in the geosynchronous orbit. Alright, so it is going to launch, or it is going to put the satellite finally into the geosynchronous orbit. But what this vehicle is going to do, this GSLV F10 vehicle is going to first put this satellite in the GTO. GTO stands for Geostationary Transfer Orbit or Geosynchronous Transfer Orbit. So this launch vehicle is going to put the satellite in the GTO, then this satellite will reach the geosynchronous orbit, the desired orbit, and become fixed over there, and then it will provide the services to India. So what is happening in this mission? In this mission, the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle F10, which is the 14th flight of the geosynchronous satellites launch vehicle, this 14th flight is going to put the Geo Imaging Satellite 1 in the geo transfer orbit to finally reach the geosynchronous orbit. And this launch is going to take place from the launch pad of India, and that launch pad is known as Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota. Alright, so it is being launched from India. Alright, now for the first time, it is a very important point to remember from the examination point of view that for the first time we are using an ogive shaped payload. Alright, we are using an ogive shaped payload fairing for the first time in the history of satellite launch vehicles in India. Now you must be surprising, what is ogive shaped? So let me tell you what an ogive shaped shape is all about. So if you have ever seen the bullet of a gun, alright, the bullet of the gun is of this shape. This shape is known as ogive shape. This shape is known as ogive shape. So towards the end of this video, I am going to show you this ogive shape payload. So this is the payload which is put up right on the head of the launch vehicle. Alright, this is the payload, and this payload carries this satellite inside it, and this satellite is GISAT-1. Alright, so for the first time we are using the ogive shape in the satellite or geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle. So this is a very important point to remember, that for the first time we have gone with the launch of a 4-meter diameter ogive shaped payload fairing. Alright, so this is very important from your UPSC examination point of view. Now this mission is being called as Eye in the Sky because for the first time we have created the state of the art agile Earth observation satellite. This is an Earth observation satellite. Earth observation satellite means it is going to capture the various aspects of Earth, that includes the surface, that includes the atmosphere, that includes the nearby water, or you can say hydrosphere of the country. It is going to observe the country, its hydrosphere, its lithosphere and its atmosphere, and this is the reason that it has been labeled as EOS or Earth Observation Satellite, and the code is 03. It is EOS 03. Generally, Earth observation satellites or the remote sensing satellites, they are generally placed in the polar satellite orbit, but this particular satellite is being put in the geosynchronous orbit. Alright, so it's a routine, it's a slight change from the general Earth observation satellites. Remote sensing satellites are also Earth observation satellites, but they are generally put up in the polar orbits, but this time the Earth observation satellite, that is the Geo Imaging Sat 1, is being put up in the geosynchronous orbit. Now this mission is going to put the satellite in a highly elliptical geotransfer orbit. So let me now explain to you what do you understand by highly elliptical geotransfer orbit. Now from the basic understanding of your science and tech, let me tell you one thing, that orbits are divided into low Earth orbits, middle Earth orbits and high Earth orbit, or you can call it as geosynchronous or geostationary orbit. In various state civil services examination and UPSC examination, they have asked that what is the precise height of geostationary orbit. The precise height of geostationary orbit is 35,786 kilometers. Do remember this fact, very important from examination point of view. Whereas the geostationary or geosynchronous orbits, they are approximately 36,000 kilometers. Remember that, okay? But geostationary orbit has a very precise height, 35,786 kilometers. What are geostationary orbit? Geostationary orbits are those orbits, if the satellite is placed on those orbits, as Earth is going to rotate, the satellite will also revolve around the Earth at the same time as the rotation of the Earth. So the satellite remains stationary with respect to a point on the Earth, and that is why it is known as geostationary or geosynchronous orbit. The difference between geostationary and geosynchronous orbit is that the geostationary orbit is directly overhead the equator. It is directly overhead the equator at a height of 35,786 km from equator, and if it is at a height of 36,000 kilometers or round about 36,000 kilometers from the surface of the Earth, from any particular point from the surface of the Earth, it is known as geosynchronous orbit. So geostationary orbit is a limiting case of, it is a limiting case of the geosynchronous orbit because it is directly overhead the equator. Low Earth orbit are those orbits which are having a height of somewhere like 2000 kilometers, and any orbit between them is basically the middle Earth orbit. Now there is a very special type of orbit, and that special type of orbit is what we call as the geostationary or geosynchronous, बोल दीजिए, geosynchronous transfer orbit. Now you see, this is Earth. Alright, this is a low Earth orbit, and this is a high Earth orbit or the geostationary orbit or geosynchronous orbit. Now you launch a satellite. Think about how much fuel will be required to put up the satellite in the geosynchronous orbit using a satellite or using a launch vehicle. This is going to make the launch vehicle so heavy that it will not even go outside the atmosphere of the earth. Forget about the launching the satellite. So what people have done? People have actually made use of physics. Alright, people have actually made use of physics. So what people have done? People go for launching the satellite at such a height, at such a speed that the satellite start following an elliptical path. Alright, so what happened in the let me change the color of the pen. So what is happening, that you are launching the satellite, you launch the satellite at such a height with such a speed that if the satellite is left there, the satellite will follow an elliptical path and reach the maximum height of that elliptical path coinciding with the geosynchronous orbit. Here the satellite will undergo some maneuvers. Here the satellite will undergo some firing in its fuel or something, such that instead of coming back to this elliptical orbit, the satellite continues in the geosynchronous orbit. Right? So it's a common sense that we cannot put additional fuel upon the geostationary launch vehicle, because it is going to make the launch vehicle very heavy to lift and go out of Earth's gravity. So what we do, we launch the satellite in a very elliptical orbit, which you can see in red color on your screen. So the satellite is launched in this particular orbit at perigee. Alright, perigee, the point on the elliptical orbit which is closest to Earth is known as perigee. So here you launch the vehicle with a certain speed such that it follows the elliptical path whose apogee, or the point which is the farthest away from the Earth, coincides with the geosynchronous orbit where you want to put the satellite. Here the satellite will undergo certain maneuvers, and the satellite, instead of coming back in the elliptical path, will rather come in a geosynchronous orbit. Alright, it will rather come in geosynchronous orbit. Alright, so this is where the satellite is being launched. So let us now look at some other parameters related to this launch. So this launch is going to take place in the geosynchronous transfer orbit, and I told you that the geosynchronous transfer orbit is highly elliptical orbit. So think about, this is Earth, this is what a geosynchronous orbit is going to be, and that dotted line is the geosynchronous orbit. This is GTO, or geostationary transfer orbit. Here in this particular case, the perigee is 170 kilometer, that is, the satellite will be launched in this GTO at a height of 170 kilometer with a tremendous speed, such that the apogee will coincide with the orbit where you want to put the satellite. That means the geosynchronous orbit of the satellite is located at 36,297 kilometer above the surface of the Earth. Alright, so the GTO has apogee at 36,297 kilometers, which is same as the radius of the geosynchronous orbit, and the perigee is 170 kilometer, where the satellite will be detached from the launch vehicle with a very swift velocity, such that it will go to great height of 36,297 kilometers. Right? It's a simple mathematics, if you can, and it's a simple physics if you can imagine. Right? Okay, now some more milestones related to this particular launch. This is the first launch after the year 2020 because of COVID-19. No launches were scheduled. So this is going to be the first launch after we suffered COVID-19. Alright, this is the 8th flight with the indigenous third cryogenic stage. The third cryogenic stage in this particular launch is indigenously developed, made in India. Alright, so it's an indigenous third cryogenic stage, 8th flight of the GSLV with indigenous third cryogenic stage. उसके ऊपर बात करेंगे आगे. What is cryogenic stage? For that you have to maintain a bit of patience. This is the 14th flight of the geosynchronous launch vehicle of India, and this is the 76th launch vehicle mission from Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota. So these are the other milestones that are achieved by this particular launch. Alright, GSLV F10. Let us go ahead, my dear friends. Now this is the flight sequence, which is not very much important from the examination point of view, but see, the satellite is being launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center from Sriharikota. The satellite goes and it detaches the satellite into the GTO, Geosynchronous Transfer Orbit, and this satellite will go to the height of 36,297 km, where the apogee of this elliptical path will merge with the geosynchronous orbit's height, which is destined height of this satellite, 36,297 km. After that, the satellite undergoes some maneuvers and the satellite remains fixed to that particular orbit, and because it is geosynchronous, it will remain fixed over the earth at a longitude of 85.5 degree east, which is actually passing through India. Alright, so let us go ahead now. Now the launch sequence is given in the ISRO sheet, but this is not important from examination point of view. None of the examination is going to ask at what second what happened, alright, but we need not worry. But one thing I must tell you, from the surface of the earth, from the launch at t equal to 0 second, it takes only 18 or under 19 minutes to put the satellite into the geostationary transfer orbit. So it is just a matter of 18 minutes. These 18 minutes or 19 minutes go well, things are perfectly fine. Alright, so it's a rocket science. That's why we use this term, right? Okay, this is not a rocket science. This is a very simple thing, because rocket science is very complex. Slightest of the change in the parameter can bring the entire mission to a dead end. Alright, let's go ahead now. So this is the shape of the payload that I was telling you, this shape that you can see on your screen. Alright, this is the shape which is known as the ogive shape. Alright, ogive shape fairing. Okay, the satellite is inside it and this is the ogive shape. Okay, now this ogive shape opens up at a particular height. Alright, so you see this shape here. So here this ogive shape is fairing. This is known as fairing separation. Alright, here the payload is separated and this payload go to the GTO and put into the GTO to reach the GSO. So the ogive shape fairing opens up in the second stage itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the diagram again. So this GSLV is comprising of 3 stages. The first stage and the second stage are liquid propellants, liquid, and the third stage is cryogenic, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen stage. So let me tell you the 3 stages which are there going to take place. In the first stage, you are using the liquid strap-on engines that will use UH-25 and N2O2 mixture as fuel. This is going to give the thrust to the satellite and the satellite will attain the escape velocity of 11.2 kilometers or more to go out of Earth's gravitational field. The second stage is again a stage that uses the same propellant as the first stage, that consists of UH-25 and N2O2. After this, when the third stage when the satellite reaches very close to the GTO, it needs to be given a very swift push, and that very swift push is given by the third stage, which is the cryogenic upper stage. CUS stands for cryogenic upper stage. Alright, and here the fuel that is used is not UH-25 or N2O4, it is rather LH2LOX. LOX stands for liquid oxygen, alright, and LH2 stands for liquid hydrogen. Alright, so these are the fuel which are used in the third stage that is going to give the payload such a tremendous speed that it will reach the height of 36,297 kilometers as apogee of the elliptical geotransfer orbit. Alright, now let us go ahead and look at some of the importance of this GISAT 1. Now in one of the parliamentary questions answering Mr. Jitendra Singh, who is the Minister of State in charge of the Department of Space Technology, he has pointed out that this GISAT is a very important strategic satellite for India. So why do we call this satellite to be a very strategic satellite for India? Number one, to provide, so this satellite is going to provide Earth observation related to India and the surrounding area around India. It is going to provide a real time, alright, on a daily basis, on a very real time information will be given to ISRO by this satellite, alright, and this is going to cover all the large swaths of area which are strategically very important for India. That includes Indian mainland, it includes the water surrounding India's territory, alright. It will include the atmosphere of India as well. Being an Earth observation satellite, it is going to play a very crucial role in natural disasters, in episodic events related to weather, alright, and any short term events that result into disastrous conditions around the earth, around India. So that is all that is being taken care by this GISAT 1, and that is the reason it is known as Earth in the Eye in the Sky. Then this time the various payloads that are put up in this satellite, they are also going to gain some spectrographical image, spectroscopic image, spectral signatures related to agriculture, forestry, mineralogy, disaster management, disaster warning, cloud property, snow, glacier and oceanography. And because it is going to cover the information related to you can say a gamut of objects related to Earth's interest, it is a very important or strategically very important satellite, alright. Now it will be located somewhere at 85.5 degree east over India, alright. It is a geosynchronous orbit satellite and it will remain fixed over there, alright. You need not remember the name of the payloads, but ISRO has certainly given these in its description. So these are certain images of this satellite. The most important image that I want to show to you is this ogive shaped payload, alright. So you can see that this is the shape of the payload that is being used this time, and it is ogive, O-G-I-V-E, ogive shape. So you can see that this is a kind of bullet, alright. This ogive shaped payload has the cryogenic upper stage associated to it, just under it, alright. Then second stage, so this is the cryogenic upper stage, alright. This is the first stage and second stage. So first stage, second stage, so let me mark it here to make it more clear. This is first and second stage. This is the third cryogenic upper stage, alright. So this third cryogenic upper stage, and the engines, they carry these kind of engines in it, alright. This is the payload fairing module, which is the ogive shape, and my dear friends, this is the satellite. This is the satellite. These are the components of the GSLV F10, alright. This is the satellite, this is the ogive shape launch module, alright. So this was all comprehensive information regarding the Eye in the Sky EOS-03 Earth observation satellite, which is codenamed as GISAT-1, Geo Imaging Satellite 1, which is being launched by GSLV F10, the 14th flight of GSLV. Whatever information that I have given you in this video, the question related to this is not going to come out of this video. So watch this video, make notes, keep it in your memory. You will never get a wrong answer for geosynchronous orbit, geostationary orbit, geotransfer orbit, low Earth orbit, middle Earth orbit, GSLV, GISAT-1, alright. This is the comprehensive coverage. With this, I'll conclude the video. This is Akash Sharawat. Have a great day ahead. Take care and bye.